Hey everybody, welcome back to the MC Off-Road Garage. Today, we have a new product review and installation to go through with you guys. Obviously, the Can-Am Defender that we have here in the shop. They're going to be installing the new winch front bumper from No Limit Wheels. Kind of what you should expect when you get it, how it's going to be packaged up, what comes with it. We are going to go through the installation, the removal of the stock bumper, removal of your winch, installation of the winch onto the bumper, the new No Limit bumper, and then everything else you need to know. So let's get to it. All right, so when you unpackage it from the box, this is basically what you're going to take out. Got the main bumper here. It's got nice foam on the corners. Basically anywhere that's prone to get damaged or hit or anything like that. And then you're also going to have your LED lights that go in the bumper pockets. But when you unpackage this, you're going to want to be careful. Don't cut into the plastic too far that you're going to scratch any of the finish or anything like that. So you're going to want to cut this open, and then I will alright, so here it is, all unwrapped. It's got a nice textured powder coat finish, welds on the main seams and everything. Nice and ground down, nice and flush. Everything's real nice fit. Well, not fit, we haven't fit it yet, but it's good finish. It's got this nice bare metal look on the accents. If we get this flipped over here, take a look on the inside. Nice heavy duty 1/4 inch plate for your winch mount and where it mounts to the main upper part of the machine itself. So everything looks pretty darn good. Nice and heavy duty. It also comes some rough country lights. Comes with a harness. We won't be using this harness at all. I'm actually going to go through and show you our new bumper light harness that we've created. It's going to work for obviously these lights, any other pod lights that you want to put on, say even on your OEM bumper. But yeah, we'll just focus on this one right now, and then we'll go from there. So over at the machine, first thing we're going to do, we're going to remove this front bumper. Tools you're going to need, 13 millimeter wrench, T40 Torx, 13 millimeter deep well socket with an extension. I'll show you why this is going to be the preferred setup for that. But first things first, in order to gain access to the nuts that are behind these bolts, got to remove this mesh piece here. You just grab it by the bottom. It's just clipped in down here. You just pull out towards you. It'll come out, and then kind of slide it down. Get these tabs out. Let's go ahead and set that off to the side. Go to the next step. What we're going to do is going to remove these lower bolts from the bumper. Your T40 Torx on the outside, and this is where you need the extension and everything to go on the back side. Catch this nut that's back here. It's not super easy to get a wrench on, so most times these bolts from the factory have patch lock, Loctite on them, so keep that in mind. It's going to take a little bit of force to get them started and going. So we'll take those out, and then we'll come up and I'll show you how to do these uppers. One thing I do want to mention as well is we're going to want to save the hardware. These bolts, these OEM bolts that we pull off, we're going to utilize them when we do put on the new bumper. So don't discard them. You're going to need them. So I got the lowers taken out, the uppers, same thing. There's T40 on the outside. There's 13 millimeter on the inside. You can see right up there. That guy is. Basically, pull both of these out. The bolts are still in here. The nuts are taken off the back side of both of them. So we'll go ahead and just kind of, it's just kind of hanging here right now. So we're just going to grab it, just kind of pull the whole thing out. Said before, we'll save the bolts. And then there are 2 pucks back behind here that are in the frame. I'm just going to take those out for right now. Just set them off to the side, just that way they don't fall down and get lost or, you know, just forgotten. So we'll just put them with the rest of the hardware. Keep everything nice and clean. From this point, we will go over to our winch. Turn it into free spool. Pull this out a little bit. You're going to have to take this pin out and the clasp, and then we will take the clasp off, take this off, and then we'll go ahead and take the fair lead off. So now we're going to move on to the winch removal. Tools you're going to need for that. You're going to need a 10 millimeter. That's going to pull the nuts off of the studs for the power wires. Then for the fair lead removal, you're going to need a 15 millimeter wrench and an 8 millimeter Allen. I'm just going to be using an impact for those. And then to get the actual winch bolts out, you're going to need a 6 millimeter Allen for those. So first we'll start with the winch wires. Down here on the driver's side, remove these boots here, just pull them off to the side. Then you're going to remove the gold nuts on both of those and pull the wires off. Alright, so one thing I do want to note here, you can see there's this yellow ring on the bottom of this one. That wire, it goes to there, has a yellow piece of tape on it. So that's how you're going to know which wire goes where. Alright, so now I got the wires unhooked. Basically just went ahead and just screwed the nuts back on these studs, just finger tight, just that way we don't lose them. You know those ones are going to be for those studs. It's the easiest way. Then 8 millimeter Allen, 15 millimeter wrench. The Allen goes on the outside here, and then our wrench goes on the nut that's on the back side. Alright, so now we got our fair lead off. Next we're going to pull these 4 bolts out here. These are the ones that are going to use the T6 Allen. These ones are the ones that actually hold the winch in place. So I'm going to go ahead and remove those. Those up here right away. And we can go ahead and slide the winch out. Now at this point, I would say if you're going to install any kind of synthetic cable or anything, now would be the time to at least pull this one off and then get the synthetic cable started, you know, locked in place on the spool and all that before getting it in there. It might just make it a little bit easier. Brought the bumper up here, set it on the table, looking at the back side. One thing I'm going to do with this winch cable is, you can see, well, it's put in here. You can see that if the fair lead hole is in line with the opposite end of the spool. So what I'm just going to do is I'm just going to take this, I'm just going to feed it through the back side here. So that way, when this is installed, your cable is more in line with the bottom of the spool here. Just that way you're not tugging and it's going to be rubbing on anything super bad if it's aligned up on the other side. So just kind of keep everything much happier when it's all installed. Before you mount the winch into location, you're going to want to put your fair lead on. Whatever fair lead you're going to use, just put that in there, put your bolts in, put your nuts on. The reason why, ask me how I know, is if you put the winch in there first, you put the bolts in, you won't be able to get the nuts on. So put the fair lead on first, then you're going to take the winch, basically going to set it up here, line it up with your holes, and then you're just going to go ahead and use the stock hardware that you took off from mounting it to then mount it to the bumper. So you're going to go ahead and install those 4 bolts. So for these on the inside, a little bit of a reach, but if you get your hand in here, you should be able to reach them. Put these bolts in first, and then you can kind of lift up on the winch and then kind of get these ones lined up. Just turn them in finger tight to start. You want to center up the spool to the fair lead hole, and then you want to go ahead grab a 6mm Allen wrench. Obviously the sockets aren't going to work for these, so if you just grab an Allen wrench, you get it in there, tighten those bolts up. Also make sure that you keep the lock washers on them. That's going to help keep those in place, and that over time they're not going to vibrate or loosen up at all. The next thing we're going to do is going to put these light pods in designated spots on each side of the bumper. Take this gasket, pull out the center of it and the knockouts. Just going to put that right on the back face. In most cases this is for sealing purposes, but in this case it's a good idea as well. Just overall, you know, having that something in between the two metal, just an extra protectant of, you know, rubbing and scratching, possibly rusting over time. So we're just gonna go ahead and put that in there. Make sure that when you put the lights in place, that the rough country is, you know, at the top. You know, and put it down on the bottom. Every time you look at your bumper, you're gonna think, I gotta switch that light around because it's backwards. So take note of it once, do it the correct way. Slide this in from the front side of the bumper, and then we're going to utilize the hardware that came with them. I'm going to be using the larger Allen wrench that came with it, the bolts and nuts, and then this is a 3/8 inch socket deep well for the nuts. So you're going to put these in from the front side, finger tight first. We'll go ahead and tighten them up with the wrench. Alright, so now over here at the machine, I'm going to show you where these were routed and how we're going to route them for when the bumper's in place. So in reality, you can see where those zip ties are. That's where the stock harness was mounted along the bottom. You're going to cut those zip ties, pull the wires out, and then you're just going to feed them up through this gap right there in the plastic. And then from that point, they're just going to come out right down there. And then you just feed them into the cavity here where the radiator is. Alright, now the next step is we're going to take the pucks that we removed, the OEM parts. Just going to go ahead and reinstall those. Then we're going to turn these bolts into studs that we're going to mount to. So initially they were mounted in forwards with the OEM bumper. Now we're going to flip them around and put them in the opposite direction. Put them in through here. It's got plastic's a little mushroomed, so we'll turn them in. Do that for both sides, and then I'll be back with the next step. Alright, now at this point, you're going to take your nuts that were supplied in the hardware kit from No Limit, spin those all the way on, And then you're just going to go ahead and using your T40 Torx and 13mm wrench, you're just going to go ahead and snug that up, get it tight. Alright, so now it's going to be easiest with the bumper off to run your harness up to the hood for the bumper lights. Go ahead and open this up, show you what I did. To remove this cover here, just pull back on this tab, lift up, and pull this out. Now from here, I'll go through the connections a little bit later in the video, but I did cut a small notch in here to have the wires pass through where the latch is. If you wanted to, you could also just drill a hole, secondary hole here that's big enough for the bullet connectors to fit through. This is just the way I did that. So you want to get that run up into that area before you put the bumper on. It'll just make things a little bit easier. So now you'll take your supplied spacers, slide each one on there. This will just tuck back here for now. We're gonna put the screen back on this one. So we'll run these through the center here, and each of these will just run through left and right. A little bit easier later. Pop that tabs up the same way you took it off, and then push in, snap it in place. Alright, so now we got our bumper over here. We're basically just going to lift it up, align those slots here, the tabs up here. Just going to want to get these wires kind of out of the way, just that way we know we're not going to pinch them or anything like that when we're putting on the bumper, just to keep them out of the way a little bit. So I'm going to lift up. Basically get it right on those studs. And then at this point, you're going to want to also grab the bottom bolts and just get them hand tight in place. Alright, so we have what we need installed here so far. We're going to go ahead and attach the nuts to the upper studs. The trick here is when it's all the way pushed on, you can see the stud down there kind of sticking out super far. But if you just pull it back enough that you can get the nut on there, it helps with clearance to get your hand in here to attach the nuts onto the studs. Do that on that side, and then you do the same on the other stud here. And then we are going to go ahead and tighten the two upper bolts, as well as tightening up two lower bolts using the Torx and the 13mm wrench or deep well socket for the lowers and wrench for the uppers. So we got our main mounting bolts all tightened up. The next thing we're going to do is hook up our wires to the winch, being sure that the one that we noted earlier with the yellow tape on it goes to the one with the yellow ring on the terminal. This back one I just tightened up with a regular wrench, and this front one here I just went through with a ratchet right through the mesh here, tightened it up that way. Kind of got limited room through the back side for a wrench, but this mesh makes it a nice easy access for tightening. And then at that point, we're done with the bumper install itself, and the winch is all working. The only thing that we have left to do are these lights. We're going to go ahead and go through that next portion of it here using the MCE Offroad bumper light harnesses that we offer. Those harnesses can also be used just for regular pod lights. We do have a couple different options from KC for those pod lights if you wanted to add lights to a stock bumper or anything like that. So we'll go through that portion next. We're over here at the workbench. This is going to be the harnesses that you get with our bumper light kit. This one is specifically set up for the no limit front bumper, utilizing the rough country lights. So they're just a two-prong plug. It's going to come with a rocker switch, and then the harness that goes inside the vehicle. This one has 2 rocker switch plugs. Standard is just going to be 1. On this unit, we're doing the installation. He wants to activate each light separately on 2 different rocker switches, so this harness is going to look like this, but with just 1 rocker switch plug-in on it versus 2. So first thing we're going to do, we're going to take these light wires here, and we're going to take them over to the front of the machine and route those up. Alright, so at this point, just one-handing it here with the phone because my hands-free camera decided to stop working. So I'm going to do my best here, go back to the old ways of how we were doing the videos. You can see here I have my wires run from down in by the radiator area where the light plugs were fed through. Just run the wires up. We had opened up the hood and removed this cover. This cover's here, just has this clip. Just push that in and lift up and then pull this out. I did run the wires up through where that clips in, but what I did was, you can see, cut a notch back in here for the wires to go into, so that way they're not interfering with that latch at all. And then what you're going to do, take your cutters here. You have these bundle of bullet connectors. Cut the zip tie off of that. You're simply just going to pick whichever one you're going to use for power and ground. So power, you use white with red stripe. Ground, you can use white with black stripe. So just use those. You'd plug your bullet connectors into those. Then you would go ahead and get this all nice and tucked back away. Put that cover back on, and then we can head into the cab. Alright, so now we're in the cab of the unit here. This switch panel plate, I'm going to pull this off. Underneath here is where it's clipped. You'll be able to kind of feel it. 2 tabs. I've already pulled this off, so it's going to be easy to do with one hand, but it will take a little bit of force with both hands underneath the first time you pull it off. You're going to pull this out, you'll hear it snap, and then there's 2 kind of clips at the top. Just going to pull that down out of the way. You can remove one of the covers back here for your rocker switch, and then from that point, once you get that cover removed, and right back in here, there's a post right here with a nut on it, and there's another one right here. This one is your ground, this one is your power. That's where you're going to get power and ground on your switch harness. And then from that point, you'll run your rocker switch plug out the hole, open switch hole that you made. Once you get that in there, then your bullet connectors are going to connect to the corresponding colors that we did up in the front. So in the front case, we had the white wire with the red stripe was positive, white wire with the black stripe was negative. So down underneath here, you can see these bullet connectors. These are the ones you would connect to with the corresponding colors. And you would go ahead and test your functionality. And then you can go ahead and pop this back into place. And that's going to complete the installation altogether. If anybody has any questions, we'll Obviously, as always, post the links and everything to the products at the end of the description for this video. And if you want to see any more videos like this, keep up to date with the products that we're coming out with, anything like that, go ahead and subscribe, and you'll get the notification that we've got a new video for either our products or even other companies' products like No Limit that we absolutely love. So thanks for watching, and ride safe.